Everybody can close their prayer books for a little bit. And I'll say, L'Shana Tova. You likely know already that this Rosh Hashanah greeting means to a good year. As we move through synagogue spaces, holiday meals, conversations with loved ones, you say it, I say it, L'Shana Tova, to a year of goodness. And yet, some years, it feels a little chutzpahdik, a little naive, to wish one another a good year or to believe that one is coming when there is so much pain and brokenness in the world. And this is one of those years. In between news headlines about the war in Israel and Gaza, anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, ruptures over whose narrative might be true, many of you have come to your clergy. In between news headlines here in America about institutions fraying, civil discourse breaking down, political extremism, gun violence, media censorship, climate-induced natural disasters, you've asked us, how can I show up for the high holy days? How can I pray or believe or hope for something better when everything feels so broken? These questions live at the heart of this sacred season. Embedded within Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are the most existential, the most pressing, the most honest questions alongside ancient wisdom with which we can respond. When we ask, will this year be good? When we ask, is humanity still worth believing in? With a little guidance from our tradition, from God, from our timeless practice of teshuvah, the sacred work of returning to our best selves, I still believe the high holy days make a compelling case for maintaining, even restoring, faith in humanity. So let's start at the very beginning. Rosh Hashanah is the birthday of the world after all. But more specifically, Rosh Hashanah is the birthday of humanity. According to our sacred texts, it was on this day, the first of the Hebrew month of Tishrei, that God created the human being. And in that opening chapter of the Torah, we read the rhythm of creation. Each day, God creates and declares after each creation, ki tov, that it is good. Light, good. Land and sea, good. Sun and stars, good. Plants, birds, animals, all good. But on the sixth day, God creates the first human, and there's no ki tov. The Torah does not say whether the creation of humanity was good or whether the creation of humanity was bad. It just is. And the silence can be deafening. Is God withholding judgment? Waiting and seeing how we'd turn out? Was God unsure? Elsewhere in Jewish text, as well as our lives that we live, we know that we carry within us the potential to do great good as well as the potential to do great harm. This challenges the optimistic, modern worldview in which humanity is continuously progressing along an arc toward a more advanced, more ethical, and more equitable world. And that can be difficult to stomach. Human history, the human present, show the much more difficult reality that we have within each of us forces for good and for evil, and that this arc into the future is not so neat or one-directional. Our mystical tradition frames this duality in the form of human impulses. We have the impulse to do good, called Yetzer Tov, and the impulse to do evil, Yetzer Hara. You can argue much of Jewish practice is the attempt to cultivate and nurture and activate our impulse for good and to channel our impulse for evil into healthier and holier directions. This commentary on human nature in Judaism, that we can be both heroes and villains in our lives and in the world, leads us to a very heavy question. Since we don't have any preemptive answer like the other forms of creation, was creating humanity a good idea? This may sound like a theological abstraction or an introduction to philosophy course, but it is a real question that people are living with. I know peers, family, friends, congregants who are very much weighing whether to bring new life into this world because they're not so optimistic about the world their children will inherit. The question of human creation is far from hypothetical. It is deeply personal and a direct reflection of the world in which we find ourselves. We are not the first to weigh this question, however. The rabbis of the Talmud imagine the moment just before God creates humanity. And the Torah says, "Let us make this human being in our image," in the plural. And the rabbis explain this by saying that God was consulting with an advisory council of angels before making the very first person. God asks this council, "Should I create humanity?" God even goes as far as showing these angels a preview of humanity, almost like a movie trailer for all of human history. What do you think was in that trailer? Was it filled with war, hunger, violence? Was it filled with human innovation, like the written word, or agriculture, the Renaissance, cures for disease? Was it filled with moments of connection, a parent holding their child, someone helping a stranger, someone standing up for justice? Whatever was in God's trailer for humanity, this group of angels took one look and said, "Well, what do you think?" Raise your hand if you think they said, "Yes, create humanity." Okay, raise your hand if you think, "No," they said, "No, don't create humanity." Wow. You might have guessed it was pretty split. The angels said, "No way. Don't do it. Too much suffering, too much conflict, too much evil, better not." So God dismissed them and got a second group of angels. Showed them the same preview, and this time they said, well, they still said no. Yeah, still definitely a no. Too much failure, too much danger, too much risk. So God sent them away as well and got a third group of angels, showed them the trailer, and this time the angels said, We know what happened with the first two groups of angels. How about you go ahead and do what you want to do? So God created humanity. But just 4 chapters later in the Torah, humanity has become corrupt, violent, immoral. And God sends a flood to wash them all away, except for a man named Noah and his family. And so the angels return to God and say, "See, we tried to tell you." To which God responds, "Even to old age, I am still here. I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will save you." In other words, God knows that we fail, but is not giving up on us. I'm sure many of you have carried a family member or a friend when they were at their lowest. Maybe you yourself have been at your lowest, and something deep inside of you refused to give up. This kind of faith, this kind of presence, this kind of commitment transcends all that keeps us stuck in this place where we find ourselves right now. It is the foundation of all of us being here on Rosh Hashanah, because God chose to stick with humanity, even when we fail, with the courage to believe that we, people, can change. And by effect, the world can too. One need not believe in God either to believe in the message from this story. It just takes a little leap of faith that there is some strengthening force beyond what our eyes can see, be it humanity, fellowship, love, connection, energy, the universe, something else. And that force does not just disappear when we miss the mark. Even stronger, though, than courage or belief is the fact that we are created with a uniquely human gift, a uniquely human power, and that is teshuvah. This capacity to apologize, to forgive, to change, the capacity to learn from our mistakes, to begin again, to do better. Our sages teach that teshuvah was created even before the world itself, meaning that repair is a foundational element of creation. It is literally built into who we are. The angels of the various advisory councils could not understand that because they don't change. That special quality of falling and getting back up is reserved for us. Teshuvah is a defining quality of being human. It's accepting our imperfections and refusing to give up. Performing an act of teshuvah is our way to say back to God that you were right to create us. See, we are still worth it. Every time we truly apologize and take accountability for our actions, repair our relationships, every time we fail and learn from our mistakes and try again, every time we soften our hearts to those around us and ourselves, every time we take responsibility, every time we choose an act of healing in the world, we make the case for faith in humanity. This might sound counterintuitive, but faith in humanity should come from a place of climbing out of our low places, from a place of confronting and repairing and overcoming our greatest challenges, our greatest mistakes, rather than from some idealized place of perfection. There's a High Holy Days metaphor that suggests that someone who makes a mistake and does teshuvah is closer to God than someone who never made a mistake in the first place. Like a rope that has been severed and tied back together, bringing both sides closer with it. I've encountered people at the very lowest of lows. When I was a hospital chaplain at Bellevue Hospital in New York, I had several patients recovering from self-harm. And my heart broke for them during every visit. And yet, every time I felt their regret and their resolve, every time I saw them with their families, every time they showed commitment to their well-being, they gave me faith in humanity. Teaching a conflict reconciliation class last year, a participant shared that when he and his brother were in their 60s, they met at a diner shortly after their parents passed away to talk about their tumultuous relationship. And they were there for over 3 hours, sharing their regrets, apologizing, forgiving, weeping, comforting one another. They repaired their relationship in their 60s. That gives me faith in humanity. Several years ago, I visited the Equal Justice Initiative's National Memorial for Peace and Justice in Montgomery, Alabama, where there are 800 steel columns commemorating the thousands of African American victims of lynching in this country. It is easy to get lost amongst the columns, which evokes a similar feeling to walking around the memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe in Berlin, which is made up of 2,700 concrete slabs of increasing height. As difficult as it is to confront these atrocities, these acts of public teshuvah, these public acknowledgments, they too give me faith in humanity. This is not easy stuff. It's much easier to give in to the forces of despair and say it's just all too much, that nothing will change, that people don't learn, that it's too uncomfortable to put ourselves out there. Teshuvah, though, is the sacred act of resistance against despair. It's a universal human behavior that communicates that we are not beyond fixing, that our relationships are not beyond fixing, that this world is not beyond fixing. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov teaches if we are able to break it, we are also able to fix it. Teshuvah is the fixing. It's the slow, unglamorous, sleeves rolled up work of humbling and improving ourselves long before and far more effective than any self-improvement quick fixes. It takes longer, but I promise you it's worth it. Because with every act of teshuvah, we bring the world along with us. The Torah doesn't say ki tov, that it's good when humanity is created, because that part was left to us. We are ultimately the ones who determine whether this was a good idea. So this year, if God shows the angels the next trailer for humanity, the one for the year 5786, what will be in it? Will there be a scene of repair, a moment of love, of courage, an act of teshuvah? How do you want to be remembered in the story of this year? Because we're all in it. The only question is how we will appear. These High Holy Days are how we respond to this defining existential question: was it worth it to create humanity? Our answer can be yes, because we're still trying, because we still care, because we can still change. We are made in the image of a God who refuses to give up on us. That means that we can't give up on us either. So as we begin this new year, let's strengthen our wishes for goodness upon each other with acts of love, of kindness, of justice, of teshuvah. Let's make this year good. Who among us doesn't love a comeback story? One of the prevailing messages of Rosh Hashanah is that we can still come back. We are built for it. We have everything we need to restore our faith in humanity, in each other, and in ourselves. L'shana tova.
So good.